What's going on, guys? Thanks for joining us. We had a conversation on the live show last night. I just want to go ahead and make that a shorter clip if you want to be a part of that conversation and see it for yourself. Like always, you can catch us on Wednesday nights for our live show. We're going to talk about is parity creating dominance? Travis and I had that conversation. I hope you enjoy. I'm sitting here thinking we are now going into year three, and so far this year, there has been one driver that does not race for Joe Gibbs or for Rick Hendrick that has won a race, and it was Daniel Suarez on a super speedway style race that was separated by like the second smallest margin of all time. So I'm sitting here and I listen to all kinds of stuff and I try to put it together and come to a thought process. And we have a car that they want everybody to be the same. Okay. That's first and foremost. They now share data to where everybody can see what everybody's doing, which doesn't make sense to me, but nonetheless. Essentially, what happens is whoever drives the best, they try to copy that driving style because they have the analytics to do so. They have a car that has no innovation. You can't do anything to it. So we're getting Martinsville, we're getting these other tracks to where they're literally driving the same laps over and over again. So what is the difference? What can be done to win races? And I think you're starting to see that by the teams that have been doing it the longest, and that's hiring the best employees. Where does that make the most? Well, right now, William Byron has the best pit crew in all of NASCAR. He has won races because of his pit crew. Denny Hamlin has had the same pit crew now for a couple of years. He's won races because of his pit crew. Okay, well, what if the pit crew is not good? Then what does it come to next? Then it comes down to a Cliff Daniels, a Rudy Fugle, Chris Gabehart. The best crew chiefs are on the top two teams. So I'm going to ask you this question. I'm drawing this conclusion, Travis, that by making everything the same, the one thing that can be different, the top has already dominated and I think has a chokehold on. Do you think parity can still exist? Am I over exaggerating? Or do you think we're going to get to the point where maybe now more than ever, Joe Gibbs and Rick Hendrick have cornered the market and it's just going to be those two fighting it out the entire year?
Yeah, I mean, the cream always what is it? The cream always rises to the top, and that's in everything. We look at who has been the most sustainable over all these years. You can say Hendrick, most wins of all time. You could see Joe Gibbs, no matter what car they get into, they're really quick. You look like an RCR, really dominant in the early years with like Dale Earnhardt, but they weren't very sustainable. They kind of dropped off. Um, look at, I don't know. You could look at, I'm trying to think of some other teams here. I used to always got to think about the best teams are always going to find a way. They're going to
Penske
find a way.
always rises to the last 10 races of the year.
And that's what I was going to say. The only difference I was going to say is the same team has won the championship at the end of the year. Penske has won both
Yeah.
with Logano and Blaney. So I think you just look at the adjustments. The thing that's going on for Hendrick right now is, like you said, smart people. They got the same car. They can do a lot of these things, right? They have a lot of the notes. There's a lot of same tire compounds. So they're taking some of the notes that worked and they're able to fill in. That's why they're quick. I look at Joe Gibbs. They got a lot of really good drivers. They got a lot of smart people. They got probably more employees. They hit something pretty early in the Toyota body aerodynamic wise, and they're running with it. I think Ford's a little behind, like we say. It kind of goes along with, I think they said that, they found a little bit of North Wilkesboro a little bit, but, I see them, but it's like we go back to, I don't know, no matter what you do, no matter what parity you make or how much you try to get everyone the same, it just will never be that way. And I think NASCAR wants that so bad, but I don't know. I look at that, and this is like you said, a different way. NASCAR fans have always said, give us all the same cars and let the drivers race and blah, 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 blah. And now we sit here and complain like, oh my God, like these guys can't let them, cheat their way around or find different loopholes and things like that. Like that's no fun. We talk about that all the time. NASCAR fans are always
Right.
hypocritical.
Yeah.
But um, I don't know. Like I think you always just look at the cream always rises to the top when it matters. Um, Usually the teams that do well at the beginning of the season they usually fade towards the end, right?
Hmm.
So, you know,
Martin Truex most certainly faded last year.
yeah. What do you do? It was I think Bristol was his first top 5 for like 20 some races, and we were
Yeah.
like, God, he was a favorite heading into the you know to the playoffs and stuff. So, uh, I mean I don't know. I just
So let me and there's a couple ways we can go with this conversation. So, first off, you mentioned not being able to change things. To me, when you have the same car, and I understand that, cuz you're right. Hypothetically, NASCAR fans have always said if you give them the same car, we'll see what driver can do what. But Travis, we're taking the driver out of the car more now than ever. There's
mhm,
no practice. There's no
agree.
qualifying. There's no adjustments that you can make. I'll never forget when Kyle Busch got black flagged for having tape on his car, and I was like,
Yep.
"Oh, you can't do that. You can't. You can't make adjustments in practice." So really, it's not drivers making the car better or worse. It's a computer simulator that they're then
Mhm,
unloading and then saying, either you hit it in the simulator or you didn't, because you have like maybe 20 laps in a 20-minute session to throw a Hail Mary at it. And if you're off, you're freaking off.
mhm,
And it just seems like only the same groups are hitting that. And then on top of it, once one of them hit at a Hendrick, at a, a Joe Gibbs, they have the ability, the drivers capable of running the same exact driving style,
mhm.
that it doesn't hurt them. Outside of Chase Elliott, he struggled. Alex Bowman struggles a little bit, but I think talent wise he's the worst, but he's actually doing much better this year compared to
Mhm.
what we saw last year. Joe Gibbs Racing, they got 3 guys that can really do it, and it won't be long before Ty Gibbs is probably right in the
Yeah.
middle, or if not rising to the top of that. It seems like, again, what NASCAR said is they want drivers to be a part of it, but then they also took the driver out of the seat. I mean, is that fair or no?
Yeah, and I think you look at it this way. You talked about sim time. Let's think about what Joe Gibbs is the Toyota and what is Night Honey. What Joe Gibbs is the Toyota and what Hendrick is the Chevy. They're their top tier people, right? So they're
Mhm.
going to get quote unquote probably more time in the sim and probably get some extra benefits from those
But
manufacturers,
but
right?
isn't that a hypocritical thing to say too? Like this tier system, we want everything to be the same.
I know.
But then at the same time, it's like, but we're going to give Hendrick and Penske and Joe Gibbs more resources than anybody else. Well, then it's not the same.
I get it. And that's what, we go down to is um it's like motors, Uh, we could go like a bunch of different ways. I think that's why the short tracks are so short, and when the cars are all the same, it's so hard to just get them away from each other, right? They're just all the same, everything. I think of dirt racing. We have these crate late models, you're right? Crate late
Mhm.
models, the same people, the same 5 to 7 people up front run better than everybody else because they got the newer stuff. They got probably a little bit more funding and stuff, and you still have the same, 8 to 10 that kind of run in the back because I don't have the same, right? You know, I just part of me misses. Oh, I don't know. It's so hard. It's hard because in my mind as a race car driver, I'm like, I want
Mhm.
the exact same thing because I think I can outrace anybody that has the same equipment as me.
Right.
But what's wrong with that is when you get to a short track like we get to, there's not much error than you would make like at a mile and a half. Like they talk about all the time, they can downshift and fix that error they made or whatever. So the errors are gone away. Where on a mile and a half and things like that, um you can do a lot more, you know, mistakes and things like that, which creates passing.
Well, I think you actually you just brought a thought to myself too. What what may be the ultimate equalizer in putting it back in the driver's hands is making a car that's hard to drive. This car's not hard to drive.
Mm-mm.
If all of the car of tomorrows were equal, maybe we would see a big difference. Because you're talking about things that are very, very difficult to drive, almost 1,000 horsepower and things like that. But when we're talking about the next gen car, I'm glad you brought that up. iRacing is the most closest simulator that we have that's not tens of thousands of dollars inside of Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, and everybody else's, workshops. When you get in one of those cars, and I tell you this as somebody that's drove generationally different cars, and this is the only way I know how to apply it because I don't own a NASCAR. It is by far the easiest thing to drive. You drive the Gen 4 cars, Travis, and all the time you talk about the biggest thing we talk about the most is tire wear.
Yep.
Nobody talks about that in NASCAR today because you don't have to worry about it because everybody just drives their balls off, and then whenever you pit for gas, you don't ever pit for tire. All these things, all these different types of things, the racing method that you're talking, the racecraft, Travis, this car has been taken away from that. It's taken away from the driver to say, no, everybody drive the same. And you mentioned the only place that we don't do that anymore is a mile and a half because you can drive different styles.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a Kyle Larson run to the top. You can have a Kevin Harvick run to the bottom. It seems like because we're putting them in this box that we're only going to have the teams that have already been there that caught up with it now. We're in year 3. But at the same time, where's the innovation come from for the other drivers? Like we used to have drivers on road courses, road course warriors. Now it looks like we're getting more short track stuff on the bottom series, but I don't know how RCR catches up. like I don't know what they can do. They're put in a corner and saying you don't have the best crew chiefs, you don't have the best pit crew. Good luck, because once Hendrick and Gibbs have it, to me you're screwed.
Yeah, I think you look at it this way too. I give RCR props when the car came out in 2022, which they technically built the car. They're the one that started all this stuff, and I thought they were ahead of the game, right? I thought they were a little ahead of the Hendricks and the Joe Gibbs and stuff like that. Tyler Reddick, if you don't take some of the crashes you got out or stuff like that, I thought they were pretty quick for the most part. But it's like they were here and then they've just done this where everyone else has kind of gone. They've continued just doing this, where they've just done this, right? And I think you look at Front Row. That's a team that's like, holy crap, like they got this figured out too. Where they've done. Todd Gilliland's always in the top 10, but doesn't finish there. He's like this. I mean, he's like this, and at the end of the race, he's this.
Right.
But I don't know. I think it's something that it's always going to happen. Those 8 seats between Gibbs and Hendrick are always going to be the ones you want to fill. That's the best chance you're going to have it winning. There's going to be some days that other teams just hit it. I'd look at Eric Jones at Phoenix was solid, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the only time he's ran solid all year. Besides, he got put in a wall there towards the end. Whereas Austin Dillon been solid at nowhere, right? Look at.
I thought that was a trick question. I'm sorry.
Look at like Michael McDowell. Besides him qualifying on the pole at the 500, I haven't really heard a lot about Michael McDowell. No. I've heard more about Todd Gilliland than I've heard of Michael McDowell.
Right. No, you're right. I agree.
Spire, like, where's all their money? They've put all this money into it. It kind of shows you right there, no matter how much money you have, it might not be able to produce what you think it's going to produce, right? They put $80 million into this sport last year at the end of the year. Why we were at Talladega and look at it. What has it done? The truck program's got better.
I was gonna say the lower series where you can do more manipulation has
Yep.
done much better,
Yeah, the truck program has
but the
done
Cup has
much.
been there's no difference outside the names that drive in those cars
Yep.
besides Corey LaJoie.
So,
I mean, Zane
so
Smith's honestly been a dumpster fire. He has been Noah Gragson of last year.
who?
Zane Smith.
Yo,
He's been really, 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 really
he's
bad.
been the Carson Hurst, I think, been the best one out of that
Yeah.
team. Most notable. I don't know about finishes what, but it's like I said, I mean, they're still the cream always rises to the top.